I have to hit my OK button that we're being live streamed. So welcome everyone to the accessibility meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order, and I do confirm that we do have quorum. I don't
Sorry,
believe. Yep.
Dion, can you just pause for a moment?
Yep.
Hi, Dion. We're just experiencing a little technical difficulties, so just if you can bear with us for a couple minutes.
No problem.
Okay, Chair Schumacher, we're good to go.
Okay. Well, welcome again, everybody, to the Accessibility Committee meeting. And I do confirm we have quorum. And I forget if there was the other part because I moved on. Call the meeting to order. There we go. Okay, and I will read the land acknowledgement. So, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabeg under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaty of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take action towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll go on to our invited presentations. So are we doing that first, or does Brandon have to go? Brandon's good?
No, we'll do the presentation first.
Sure. Okay. So Lee Campbell and Amanda Gebhardt, I hope I said that right. Awesome. Are here to talk about the Parks and Trails Master Plan, which of course is the main reason why we are doing this virtually, so that we could have Lee and Amanda here to discuss, I think, Parks and Trails, and specifically our areas is to address a lot of the accessibility issues that may have arisen in the past. I know we've done some of our own education booths, and some of these things are the things that do come up, is some of our Parks and Trails systems and that kind of thing. So I guess take it away, ladies.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity to meet with you today. I am hopefully going to share my screen. I just have a short, oh, I cannot.
I have to allow that.
I'll send a request, I think. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Here we go. Let's see here. Where did it go? Apologies. I don't see the option now to share a screen. There we go. Okay, technical difficulties aside, I hope that you are seeing that now. So I'm Lee Campbell from Lees and Associates, and I'm joined by my colleague Amanda. Lees is a landscape architecture and planning firm. We have our head office in Vancouver and regional offices in Guelph and Whitehorse. And for this project, we're also working with Monteith Brown Planning Consultants, who are a London, Ontario-based multidisciplinary consulting firm. And I just have a few slides today to to provide a bit of information on the project, the timelines, sort of the purpose of today. And then we do really hope to have the bulk of our time with a discussion with you. And I have a few questions to guide the conversation, but those may or may not be needed. We can see how that goes. And then I do have, I can wrap up with a slide on next steps and where we go from here. So the Parks and Trails Plan is intended to provide direction over the next 10 to 12 years for the town of Huntsville, and will consider the needs of a growing population and is intended to support permanent and seasonal residents as well as visitors. And it will align with Huntsville's mission to deliver quality service through responsible decision-making. So the plan will be guided by and built from existing plans, such as the 2019 official plan, the 2021 waterfront design brief, and the 2022 community services master plan, among others. And a successful plan will really be built with community input to ensure that the delivery of parks and trails meet the community's needs and vision. And it will consider evolving community needs and trends while looking to identify some long-term priorities for park renewal, redevelopment, land acquisition, among other items. So we started the project earlier this fall with some background analysis, and we started some engagement in the late fall as well. We had an in-person and a virtual open house and an online survey just before Christmas. We're continuing to gather input, which is why we're here today. And following engagement, we will prepare a draft plan, and we'll bring that back out to the public for a second round of engagement that will really look at if we got the plan right, what's missing, and then options and strategic directions, priorities. And then we anticipate having a final Parks and Trails plan ready in summer of 2026. So this round of engagement is really focused on information in. So we're looking to gather information on current park and trail use, community values, as well as specific park trail gaps or needs and opportunities. And the plan will, I probably didn't mention, just covers all area of the town of Huntsville. So the downtown, Utterson, Port Sydney, and the rural areas as well. So that's sort of my intro slide. And I do have a few questions just to get the conversation started, and I'm happy to turn it back to the chair to facilitate that conversation, whichever you prefer.
No, I think, Lee, it's good if you want to get started, and then, yeah, it will come up with some of the answers or some of the conversation we've already had in the past with people at our booths and stuff.
Sounds great. So why don't I'll show the slide that has the questions, and I think I'll turn my presentation off so that we can see each other and have a conversation if that works for folks. So really what we're looking to, understand is what you value most about Parks and Trails, what you think are the biggest challenges, and what barriers exist. Apologies for everyone to experience and enjoy parks and trails. So seniors, youth, families, those with mobility challenges, and what improvements could be made to improve parks generally, accessibility within parks and trails, given this meeting over the next 10 years. So that's I'm going to stop sharing for now, and yeah, maybe we can just start with what folks value most about parks and trails in Huntsville.
Ryland?
Thank you. Thank you. My question, I guess, is what are we defining as a park? I guess because there's a few different definitions I have as a park. Are we talking like sports, like the Macaulay Robertson ballpark, or are we talking about like the beach parks? Like, I guess I'm confused on what are we classifying as a park?
I'm happy. So from our standpoint, it's all the municipal parks and trails that are owned by the town of Huntsville. So it could be the sport park, Macaulay Robertson. It could also be, locations like Avery Beach or Hutchison Beach. You have some docks in some spaces. So
Are playgrounds included in that as well?
Playgrounds
Okay.
as well, correct, yes.
So anyone on value? I mean, I think it's great. We do have a definite varying. I love that you did mention, because I know as the counselor for Stevenson's District Port Sydney, we have a wide area, like from Buck Lake and even, the little off trail bits of public beach front that people access and can use. We have a number that sort of try to meet as many varying needs of our community as we can. So we have a number of playgrounds, tennis courts, sport parks. I mean, yeah, I think we have a good range within our community for people to access as far as, so for value wise, we have a dog park, we have, all of those things that I think pretty much anybody could access to, I mean, access, I guess, in a different word, but to get to, there are various ones throughout the community. Some are a little more accessible from our standpoint as a committee than obviously others, right? So that would be the thing.
Yeah.
Member Kerwin.
Yes, I'm wondering, when you were considering accessibility, whether you're using the concept of barrier-free versus universal design.
Yeah,
Do you want me to jump in on that,
Yeah.
Lee?
please, Amanda, yeah.
Yeah. So we're looking at all of those components. So certainly in our language and in some of our master plans in the past, we describe the various levels and ways in which we assess access. So we speak to the definitions behind barrier-free, universal design, AODA. Some of those overlap and some of those differ. So in our plans, we do like to identify that there are these different lenses that we look at accessibility through. And certainly as a municipality, if you have a specific focus or preference on how you would like our language and the way in which we assess and identify accessibility, please do let us know.
I have several questions, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead,
Um,
Deb. Well, we'll let you have a few, and then if anybody else raises their
yeah,
hand,
sure. I'll relinquish.
Yeah.
I'll come back later. Oh, where was I going with this? For instance, I'm going to be specific. When planning picnic tables, for instance, right now, we may have one or two picnic tables that are accessible. I'd like to see the town take the universal design attitude, and every new picnic table that we're adding to the crop is accessible, so that all of them are accessible, not as, going to a park and there's one accessible table and it's already being used and I can't access any of the others. So that's universal design, is to have them all the same. And there have been arguments why we don't do that, but I'd like to see that going forward.
I'll just speak on that one just quickly. Part of our mandate is to come up with some standards.
Yes.
Some municipalities will do a 1-to-3 ratio in terms of, for instance, picnic tables, and others do every single one, as you've mentioned. So that's really great feedback.
Okay. With regard to trails, signage is really important, and especially at the beginning of a trail. And I know that you've started that, I believe, because there's aspect of trails that are just too steep, and I'm not going to get past. The Hundreds Bay Trail, for instance, I haven't been on it in a long time, because the last time I was on it, I couldn't see the fireworks, where there are some little boardwalks to get over water areas. The step up had been eroded and I couldn't get on it. So that information ahead of time would have been preferable.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what your standard's going to be for signage, and the Macaulay Robinson signage on Ravenscliff Road is ideal, because instead of the printed word, you're using the symbols, actual pictures. And that's universal design because everybody understands what the pictures are. And I would hope that maybe that we incorporate that as well in other signage throughout the park, or throughout the trails anyway, giving us a heads up.
Wonderful. And certainly those are things that we advocate for, and we work towards including in our plans with trail master plans that we've done, really informing the user. And for me personally, that's one of my big mandates when we're talking about trails, is ensuring that it's a choose your own adventure model, that you should be able to fully understand which barriers and challenges you're about to face, so you can choose that experience, especially in trails. As a practice, we're no longer necessarily designing all trails to be fully accessible, understanding that we have many competing factors such as environmental sensitivities and other things. But when we are designing a trail and making sure that we have an appropriate number of trails with really great access, we want to make sure that people are able to use them, and we're really clear about that experience, so people can select a great trail that suits their level of challenge, that they can utilize and what they're looking for.
Years ago, I think the Trans-Canada Trail had design guidelines for accessibility. And have you used that as a tool to take a look at what they're proposing? It might not be
Yes.
updated.
I have worked with the Trans-Canada Trail Group on some trail projects, as well as several other municipalities. We have some really interesting, because we're groups in BC and in Ontario, very different in terms of our provinces and what we can do. We built some really great mountain bike adventure trails in BC and some great master plans. In Ontario, it's certainly that access lens is so much more important. Design standards, I find one of the best ones, honestly, is the City of Toronto. But again, as an industry, a bunch of us trail designers and planners are really starting to look and rethink how we've been doing things in the past. There's some really great examples. But we're also trying to be more dynamic about it. And again, that informed trip is really a key component.
Great. Thank you.
Member Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One other thing that I think is really important is when we're designing and really thinking about parks and trails is access to transit on our transit loop, so that I think of particularly young people who don't have driver's license, the under 16s that want to go ahead and access these trails and parklands but can't get there because the transit loop doesn't go out there or isn't aligned properly. So I know that's a transit thing, but I think it's important to take into consideration with when we're designing parks and trails.
Certainly one thing that's sort of been identified within this master plan, it's not a specific area that we're diving into, but recognizing the role of sidewalks and transit certainly is a component. And we may not be able to solve all the problems, but we can certainly make some recommendations as to where we need to go and what we can do to improve that. And I agree, it's very important.
Yeah, I mean, to my point earlier, we have such a vast area, but we do have to accommodate people, as I said, out on the outskirts, and still have the ability for them to access stuff that might be within walking distance for them, but it's not on transit. But I do agree to Member Davis's point that when we can incorporate it, in town or access a little bit out of town as we are redesigning our transit loops, do we have those as stops? And I think so to speak to, I think your second point around the challenges that we maybe have incurred when we've done some of our education booths and stuff is things like the Hunters Bay Trail, to Member Kerwin's point, is, and I do believe, I know I've talked with Tina quite a number of times, is if budget does allow at some point, or maybe we could get grants to make it, there are parts that aren't paved that should be paved, to continue it to be, paved. There are some hilly areas that maybe aren't as great to maneuver or access. But I mean, that has been people in wheelchairs, people pushing strollers, even with some sort of a walking device, have identified that there are only a couple of trails that have got the paved sections. If we could work towards those one or two, like Fairy Vista and Hunters Bay, to make them more accessible, that would be their goal. Then, trying to your point, we're gonna, Amanda, we're going to have some varying degrees of ability for people to be able to access the trails. So let's work really hard on the ones that we know from an accessibility point we can make more accessible, and work really hard on those. And we also know just our terrain is the way it is. There are going to be some access to water points that are not going to be accessible for all. But as long as we do have some that we identify that somebody in a wheelchair can get to, or, and we showcase those as well. I think those are some of the main points. And I know with our waterfront strategy, we had talked about, again, making sure if we are putting washrooms into park areas, they are to be the fully accessible washrooms that we ran into, like at Rivermill. I know there was some pushback on that whole, but to have a nice accessible washroom for people, then even the accessible porta potties just sometimes don't cut it, especially when you have someone like Member Slater, who has identified in the past that when he has an assistant to help him, it's very difficult in one of those situations to move freely within that. And then I think Member Little had her hand up.
Sorry, I was going to talk about parking, like accessible parking, and then accessible, just with regards to boat parking and that kind of thing. Just what you had just mentioned about actual access down to a park, but you already questioned that.
To your point, I mean, I know we worked really hard, say, at the Port Sydney Beach, which is one in my area, where we didn't have even accessible parking spots identified there. And we worked hard to get the accessible parking spots. And then we created the, ramp sort of area walkway down to the mobile mat, and worked, very hard within the scope of what our accessible project was to create and the ability for people to access that, and to tie it into where the parking is. Because sometimes we've had parking and then people can't get to the beach, right? So the parking doesn't really make sense where it is to the location of the amenity kind of thing, right? So I do have to give staff a world of credit, because I think they work really hard with AODA and planning, and we have seen them come. I've been on this committee last term as vice chair, this term as chair, and leaps and bounds, and even Member Kerwin will agree to that we have seen them come, with the incorporation. Tina worked hard with, communication devices, the communication boards at our new Rivermill Park, and equipment. And I know we get feedback from the community where it's like, well, now it seems smaller, because we do have to allow for space and turning radiuses within for wheelchairs. And so you can't cram equipment in the same way you used to with a park. And I get that. But the whole point is to make it inclusive for all, so that everybody has an opportunity and a chance. So yes, maybe we have one less piece of equipment than we did in the past, but we still have a very robust playground at Rivermill Park for people to access and use. Lee, I can't remember what your other couple of questions were at the end, if you wanted to touch base on those.
Yeah, I think just biggest challenges, improvements that you'd love to see over the next 10 years.
Member Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think just going to the way that Huntsville's expanding, Huntsville is a growing community, ensuring that we're not just putting all of our eggs in one or two baskets in one or two specific areas. I understand there's always budgetary challenges and everything, but I look at now Huntsville growing out the Muskoka 3 corridor out towards the high end of where Arrowhead Park is there, ensuring that, as houses go up there and subdivisions go up, that those parks are accessible and have interconnectedness to other things that are not, we're not just saying, well, we have accessibility, but you have to drive downtown to experience accessible parks and trails, that we do have, to varying degrees, of course, in different areas of the town. I even think out in rural Stisted, out in the Asphodon area, where where accessibility, I think, is a challenge, particularly at Skeleton Lake Park there, where the parking is so far back from the beach that with the uneven ground, it can be hard for someone with mobility challenges to get up to that wonderful beach that we have there. So as we expand and as our community grows, so does the different regions and where we have these type of parks.
Deb, do you have another question, or you just anyway?
I do. I just
yeah,
had to put
okay.
my mute. My dexterity isn't that great. Just one last comment. I think when we're talking about accessible parking, if the parking area is not paved, then I have difficulty parking.
Yeah.
Because I need that space between me and the next car to get my ramp out and get me out of my van. So preferably, if you're going to be doing new parking lots, I'd like to see them parked or paved and with lines to assure.
Yeah.
I mean, I can be as creative as all get out. I always do find a spot, but it's not always preferable for myself and for others, because I end up taking 2 spots. But that's something to think about.
That's a good point, Debbie.
Yeah.
On a note, I think parking challenges for all users are going to be a hot topic as we discuss some of the park access, and certainly paving and budgets. And there's a few different tricks that we can share that other municipalities have done to find that balance. But we do agree in our observations of all the parks, the parking and the access and the organization of that point of entry certainly is something that we want to focus on and ensure that we can get these users into these experiences in a better way.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, I guess to Member Davis's point, that is something, if we're looking like 10 years down or whatever, when it looks at space, do we have enough space for that park, for all of the things? When we look at accessibility, like I mentioned, if you need playground equipment and you need the space to maneuver around it, and like we're talking swing radius and all of those things that get combined into creating a parking or in a playground, to be able to get all of the things that you might need, we do need to look at maybe bigger chunks of land than sometimes are the little ones that we find in the middle of a subdivision, right? Did that cover a lot of what you guys were looking for? Do you need any other questions you want answered, or?
No, I think that was great. If there's no other input, or if you have anything else to share, we're happy to hear it. But I think that's really helpful just in terms of hearing what are your biggest challenges and what you might really like to see sort of spread out across the network, recognizing the challenges that come with topography and sensitive environments, but making sure, as I like Amanda's line of like, choose your own adventure. People know what they're going to get and can make the choice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. And I'll just add that if, you leave the meeting today or other things come up through your experiences, do funnel them through, I'm sure yourself as the chair, those comments, and they can be directed through us. And we certainly want you to take that fresh look at the spaces around you and offer up your feedback to help inform the plan.
Sounds great. And I know Member Slater is a member of Community Living, and so they will probably do a bit of input when it comes to some stuff that way too. So.
Fantastic. Well, thank
you
you
both for
so
coming.
much for your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Will there be more public input along the way?
Definitely. Yeah.
Opportunities.
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah. So we will be taking everything back that we've heard so far and developing a draft plan. And then we will be doing a full round of engagement with those drafts.
Great.
To make sure that we've got it right and what we've missed and
Good.
all of
Yeah.
that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I
Thank
did
you.
we'll be
see
back
your
for some
spring. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
spring. Yep. Is what we're aiming for.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks. Okay, now on to new business. And I think this is where Brandon's coming in. Is that correct? Just wait, I gotta open my clerk's notes. Thank you, Trish, by the way, for that. Brandon, to provide an update on transit. Yes. Did you have to leave already, Brandon? Nope, you're here. Okay.
I'm kicking around still. And everybody can hear me? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, just going to be a quick high-level overview of where we sit with our current transit. So as you're aware, back in July, a report was approved through council for a 3-phased approach to enhance our transit system. Phase 1 was the urban route optimization. Phase 2 was to the rural integration through regional collaboration. So that's with the district and the DRT. And then phase 3 was the accessibility and infrastructure upgrades to stops. I know Michael and I have already done some work on that, and that's still in progress. So currently, we are working with the province. So we did have a grant, and it's going to cover 67% of the 2 new transit buses. The 2 new buses that we're purchasing are the same that we currently have at Campbell's. So the whole intent is the town's purchasing the buses, and then Campbell's is going to take them over and maintain them. So we'll have 4 buses. 2 will be on the on-demand, and 2 will be on the regular route. It's going to be a fixed route. So right now, as per the report and approval through council, it's to be integrated in July of 2026. So we are currently on target with that. We are working with the province to sole source these buses as we spec'd specifically in the report approved by council of what buses we were looking for. So we are just waiting back. I know our director of finance has been working diligently trying to get some answers to the province, and our supplier is just waiting on the sidelines for the go ahead. So all looks like when we hear back in a reasonable amount of time, we should be able to have these buses up and running by July of 2026. And that new fixed route will be implemented at that time. So we're currently looking at proper signage and everything else that we need to have ready, working with marketing on that. So it is an ongoing process. And we've been working with some of the major corporations like Walmart and Smart Centers for the hub. They're all on board to have it there. We're just working out some details and any possible agreements that have to happen. But no doubt, we strongly believe that can happen by July. And then for phase 2 and phase 3, there is no timeline for that implementation in that. However, we are working with the district to see what the DRT, demand response transit, will look like. And it is pretty positive feedback as we dive into this. And once we kind of get some numbers and a plan detail, the report goes back and definitely come back to this committee outlining what that would look like. And we can get that one implemented as soon as possible. Obviously, there's going to be some financial constraints to that. So there is a process to go through to make that happen. But we are currently working on that as well. And then the phase 3, the accessibility infrastructure upgrades. This is about even with our current transit and the new transit stops, we want to make sure that they're all accessible, whether we got we're looking at bus shelters, benches, we're looking at curb drops, whether we have to reconstruct the stop to make it accessible. I know that part of it is now in Michael's purview of engineering. And I know between him and I, we're currently working on what that looks like and some standards for what we can do. So right now it's a lot of work, but it is at the forefront of what we're doing because we've got 5.5, 6 months left to try to get these buses up and running and work on some plans for making everything accessible for the transit.
Any questions, Member Kerwin? For
Just to reiterate, Brandon, what is the promise about the summer of 26 exactly?
Through you, Chair, the report that was presented and approved by council was to have the 2 new buses and the new route up and running by July of 2026.
Perfect. And I have on another note, Brendan, the bus shelter for the Northland bus. What's the status on making that accessible?
So it is accessible at the end of, you mean the one up on Main Street?
Yes.
So it is accessible from the curb down at Station Road.
Yeah.
Between you and I, we both agreed on that. And the district did not want a curb drop right at the road,
Right.
because that was going to invite people to walk across the road.
Right. I meant the inside of the shelter.
So we are working to get a smaller bench to be put inside, so there is accessible space for
Okay.
people in wheelchairs.
Okay.
So that we are working on, and we did get the glass that was assembled to it for the front because it didn't come with it. So there's the half glass on the front, and we believe that the bench is the only outstanding item that we have left on that shelter.
And when might that come?
Well, I don't have an answer on delivery, but we'll make sure it comes sooner than later.
Has it been ordered?
Not at this point, no.
Oh,
We've been going through Best Life. It was in their Best Life's agreement was to provide a bench and everything. So we have one of our old benches in there, and we've been working with them to supply it.
okay.
I mean,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Member Little.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brandon. Just a question on signage. So will the what style of signage would be available at bus stops? So I guess what I'm trying to, so currently there's an indication that this is a bus stop, but there's no indication as to what times the bus arrives at that stop. And then also some kind of pictorial, so like an actual route map with a like you are here. So I'm just thinking of people with intellectual disabilities using a bus stop. There's no app that they can use, and so they're going at a certain time. They don't, if the bus hasn't arrived at their, if they have I don't just think about my daughter has an alarm. And if the bus hasn't arrived within 5 minutes, she will turn around and walk away because she doesn't have any idea about, she doesn't have any awareness of really whereabouts she is, where it's going, where it's coming from. So I'm just wondering about signage, what kind of signage, if we can make sure that whatever signage is there has some kind of pictorial representation of where they are in the loop and the expected times, so that yeah, if that's at all possible.
Through you, Chair, I think those are great points. We are working with marketing on the best way to manage what goes on these signs and kind of what they look like. We don't technically have a design nailed down yet, but we can definitely provide some options. I know right now there's a current QR code on those transit signs that can be scanned, takes you to the websites.
Yeah, but
transit. I understand that not everybody has that. So looking
yeah,
for standard pictorials, we can definitely look at that and having that on there.
okay.
I don't see that. I'm just reiterating what's there today, and
Yeah.
I'll take what you've provided, and then we can include that in our scope on our design on what these signs look like.
Okay, that's great. Even if it just had some kind of the visual side of it, but times would be really great because then yeah, it would be helpful. Thank
Understood.
you.
We can definitely consider that, yes.
Thanks.
Member Davis.
Thank you, Chair Schumacher. Can we just get an overview of what this report was? Because there's a lot of reference to this July report. I'm going to say I'm not the most familiar with it. It wasn't included in our even as a reference. So like this phase one of these two buses, can we just get what's happening there? I just don't. I understand it's two loops, but a little bit more information would be appreciated.
Sure, I can do that through you, Chair. So phase one is the urban route optimization, fleet expansion, and modernization. So currently we have one route, takes 2 hours. By adding a second bus to that route, we're going to come up with 45 minutes round trip with a hub at Walmart. So those two buses will be crossing at Walmart at the same time. There's a 10-minute lag in between. So anybody that needs to go in, use the bathroom, do some shopping, gives them a bit of time. We're working on a more like an enhanced transit station at that Walmart. They're all on board for it. So what this comes with is we're going to have an automated fare collection system as well. There's passenger counting. It gets real-time announcements, public alerts, visual route, and trip scheduling is all within that. And that's taking the existing route that we currently have today, Ryland, and making it more modernization and more efficient. So we've added a few stops. We've removed a few stops, sorry. And overall, I think it's going to be very well efficient.
Follow up, if I may, Madam Chair.
Sure.
You mentioned. Thank you very much, Brandon. That I remembered part of that, but that was very helpful. You said public alert assist system in the bus. I just want to know how. Is there a possibility? How are we going to be able to accommodate people that are deaf and hard of hearing? Or is it a audio? Is it a how is that alert system to accommodate people with low vision and with hearing loss?
Yeah, so there's going to be pictorials inside the buses as well as an automated annunciation system as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. I think you are now free to go.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Chair.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And yes, Member Davis, this is kind of a follow-up to Brandon's report when he came. I can't remember. It was like in the fall last year or summer. I want to say our July meeting, possibly. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for your work. Site approvals, Deb, do we have any? Is next on our agenda? No, no site approvals. Perfect. Okay. Jumping through my clerk's notes here. Again, thank you, Trish. Much appreciated. The lift at the Summit Center pool, and I know this is a question that came from Glenn and Alex, and partly it is my fault because I did not update you. I was supposed to have a meeting at Community Living and I didn't. So since then, and since I did find an answer, there has been more. So Simone is here to speak to that, unless you want me to continue what we talked about, Simone.
Hi, Dion. Hi, everyone. Through you, Chair, I do have a bit of an update, and it's probably changed a little bit from when you and I last talked, Dion. So it's an ever-changing challenge for sure. The lift in the change room at the pool has been broken for some time, and staff have been trying to get it fixed. It is been very challenging. It's still not fixed. So what we have done is we have continued to try and get that one repaired so that we always have a backup, but we've ordered a new one. And it just seems like they're more willing to supply parts and repairs to newer versions. So we're going to go that route. It is set for delivery. That has been postponed because of weather. So now we're now looking at receiving this around February 7th, and it can be installed right away. So same day, just depending on when we get it. But what we're also going to do is get the old one repaired, and then so that we'll have it for backup going forward, so that we have that as a backup and that it's in good repair. But that is taking longer than buying a new one, quite honestly. But we are aware of it. We are trying to react as quickly as possible. And I have to say that, staff have really tried hard. They have driven this piece of equipment down south on their own time to be able to expedite it, to bump the line for repairs, but it's not really helped them get it done. So anyway, that's my little update.
Thank you, Simone. Yeah, we're finding fewer and fewer places that will fix the specialized equipment. Member Slater.
Hi, if I can speak for Glenn. I'm just curious because I mean, if there's been a few instances where Glenn's lift here at his house is broken, and it's they just call a place in town and the guy comes over and fixes it right away. Is it because there's different insurance with the Summit Center, or is it because it has to be a specialized person for that certain lift? Yeah, just curious because I mean, when a lift breaks here at community living, it's fixed immediately. So just wondering what the process was.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, it's because of the piece of equipment and what is broken on it. It's difficult to get. They're having challenges getting the part. There's only a couple of companies that we can go through and to, and they have a long lineup and they're limited on staff. We've heard every excuse in the book. We are, and in fact, Cameron drove it down there to bump the line, to put it in front of them. And that helped a little bit, but it still didn't get us the part because we're waiting on a specific part, I guess. So, yeah, I think Cameron has done everything but jump up and down, I think, to make this work. And so I do apologize. Staff find it as frustrating as our customers do. I truly appreciate the challenge it creates for everyone.
Member Davis. And then
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Simone. What is the life expectancy, like the useful life expectancy of this new piece of machinery? Like how long are we expecting to get out of this piece of machinery or lift? And how old is the previous lift? So there's kind of get an understanding of the age of the equipment.
Through you, Chair. I don't know off the top of my head any of those answers off the top of my head, Ryland, but we do have a capital plan, which these things, when they are purchased, those capital plan items go in for replacement. So based on the equipment replacement life, when we buy a commercial piece like this, it goes into that plan. But when we assess them each year, or when they find that pieces of equipment are harder to get, or that they don't make them anymore, we change the dates on those capital plans. So the life expectancy might be 10 years, but they no longer replace parts after 8. We move it up on the list. So that's a moving target. You know, having a life span of a piece of equipment doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it truly is. So that's one thing. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, I lost my train of thought. I'm really sorry. However, when we do these capital plans and move it up, then the new one will go on. And now we're going to keep the old one so that we have a backup if we can ever get the right parts for it. So this is part of our plan, is to be able to have a backup and just set ourselves up a little bit differently going forward.
Member Slater.
Just another thing, and it's not lift related, but it is related. And if this isn't the right forum, let me know. But pool chairs as well. We had an incident last week at the pool, community living staff with there was only one chair. And I know we've been talking, I've mentioned pool chairs several times. So I brought it back to the office and we were talking, and maybe we were thinking of if there could be some sort of partnership between community living in the town, headed by Glenn, to do some sort of fundraiser to maybe raise some money for a new pool chair. I don't know if that's something that we could do, or just an idea that we're throwing out there, because I know those chairs are very expensive. But only having one chair has caused a lot of frustration between a lot of the guys that we support and our staff as well. Thanks.
Director Frame, do we have a program where people can submit ideas for fundraising options?
What's it called again? Sorry, Dion.
Just a sec. I'm going to have Riva maybe possibly speak.
I'm just trying to get there we go. There's my video. Sorry, can you clarify what kind of program? So to submit for
So if somebody
fundraising
would like to
requests or support?
fundraise for a piece of equipment for the town and do a partnership.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we do have a program. Thank you for the segue. So just last year, we set up the Huntsville Community Fund in partnership with the Muskoka Community Foundation. So we are able to set up projects. We need to get approval from council to set up a specific project through that fund, but that allows community members to donate and get a charitable tax receipt for specific, specific pieces of equipment or amenities and that kind of thing. We also do, coming out very shortly in the next few weeks, is our community user group budget request process. So we are working in the background on that application form right now to make it a little bit easier to navigate that process. And that's for people to bring forward, requests for new amenities and that kind of stuff that usually involves some level of fundraising on their part. So we've got sort of a number of ways that we can bring, that stuff forward. And yeah, certainly the Huntsville Community Fund, and we actually are launching a project today or tomorrow in that fund so that people, just general members of the public, can donate and get a tax receipt for specific projects, amenities, that kind of thing that the town can look at doing. Did that answer the question?
Yes, somewhat. But it did somewhat. And then I think specifically community living might want to partner with the town and see if they can do a specific fundraiser for a specific piece of equipment. So I think it aligns with that community fund. And then there might be an opportunity for more public support to go towards a specific item. But I think community living as a whole would also donate, not just a person in general. So it tweaks within it, but then there's some leeway too, right? So that I think it's something we can mesh and talk about probably in the background.
Absolutely.
I did want to give you the segue because I think it did align with sort of the request that Member Slater was mentioning. Okay, thank you. And on to general information and council updates. So we are launching today. We talked about it last night and launching today. So see, a report is the Better Homes Huntsville. So that is opportunity for people to be able to upgrade their home. There is an opportunity to get some grant funding, and then you'd pay that back through your, well, it's not grant, it was kind of grant. You end up paying back a loan through your property taxes, but it's for older homes in the Huntsville area to be able to energy efficiency, that type of thing, replace windows, because I know it's a huge cost. So there is anywhere up to, I think, up to $40,000 that people can apply for as an opportunity to do an upgrade. This project has been in the works since like 2020, so we're finally happy to see it start to come to fruition for those that do want it as an option. The other thing that came out, Member Kerwin, is construction. We learned a lot from digging downtown. There will be construction happening, of course, on the King William Street area of town. So we did talk about, it came to council last night to do an approval to work into the evening. I did ask the question about, we will have pedestrian access. I don't know if it's quite the same as accessible access during the construction area, because I know that was a difficult time for digging downtown, but there is definitely going to still be pedestrian access. So the construction zone is from Scott Street by where Shoppers Capstone is all the way to Highway 60. And so the anticipated start date with the district is spring of this year, 2026, going forward. So, and yeah, it was a fairly short meeting. The other thing that did come up, which I know you guys, I think there'd been some talk in some emails back and forth around with transit as well, was the press release that people have seen around the Northlander coming to our area train. And Member Kerwin, you'd be very happy because Councillor Stone and Councillor Armour were down. They got to see the train, and I have taught them very well because they took pictures of the bathroom, the accessible bathroom on the train. So they're like, Dion would love this bathroom. And so they brought me pictures of what the accessible bathroom on the Northlander train is going to look like. And it is spectacular. It's got like a rounded feature so that it has a great turn radius and everything in it. So it looks good. We talked a bit last night about anticipated dates. I think they're hopeful it's going to be sooner rather than later, but some are thinking it might be closer to fall as opposed to spring or summer by the time the release happens. So those are mostly the updates, other than some events coming up this Saturday. You will see Member Kerwin and myself facing off against each other at the curling rink for celebrity curling coming up. So Deb and I are gonna get out our curling sticks and we're gonna be country star Tim Hicks and Kyle the Monster Nelson, you see, are gonna be skipping our teams, and apparently maybe TSN might be filming it. We'll see how that goes, because it is in honor of National Curling Day on January 31st, and we are showcasing that the new accessibility pieces within the curling club. So we're very excited about that coming up. So, and I think that is basically it for council updates. So short and sweet. And we're at adjournment. I have a motion moved by Member Davis and seconded by Member Kerwin that we do now adjourn at, almost made it to an hour, 1:57 p.m. All in favor? And that carries. And we will see you guys in March at our next meeting, which I believe is actually in person.
And did the clerks record our attendance? Because I know we couldn't sign in today. So has that been recorded on who was here?
I believe so.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.